Calling to order the meeting of the Oxford DDA for December. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Charles?
Okay. Pete Schultz is excused, though I noticed on the agenda that there's going to be a virtual attendance. Is that correct, Kimberly?
So he is here to help speak on the crosswalk project.
So officially not here? Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So Ron Charles here, Marie Powers,
Here.
Ashley Ross,
Here.
Jacob Nicosia,
Here.
Scott Taylor,
Here.
and is it Jay Choi? Yep, here. Jay Choi, and Holly Pfeiffer, I understand, has an excused absence.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment on non-agenda items? No? Okay. Item number 5 is check presentation by Oakland County. This item is going to be postponed to a later date.
But should we,
Append it.
have an amendment to the agenda then?
Okay, well, we could do that when we, in the next item, approved
Okay.
agenda.
All right.
Okay, the consent agenda, item number 1, approval of the proposed agenda. May I have a motion to modify the agenda?
I'd like to modify the agenda showing that the check presentation of Oakland County will not happen tonight.
Okay,
Second.
Seconded by Ashley.
okay.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of the November 2024 meeting minutes as written and submitted.
I move that we approve the November 2024 meeting minutes.
Support.
Okay. Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That's approved. And if I could have a motion to accept and file the police report and code enforcement report.
Motion to approve consent agenda items C and D, the police report and code enforcement report.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it's approved. Item number 7, the financials. If I could have a motion to accept and file the financial statements and revenue expenditure reports, please.
Motion to accept financials, items A and B. Bills for November 2024 in the amount of $29,688.23.
Okay, can we have a roll call on that?
Do we have support?
Oh, support, sorry,
Yes.
yep.
I'll support it.
Okay.
Second.
And roll call or discussion first? Any discussion?
Just a favor to ask, in the future, can the financials also just be on the total bill on the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I know it's in there too, but that'll just help.
Yep.
I couldn't hear you, Ashley.
Yeah.
I just asked if the total, bills can be the number on the actual agenda in the future.
I got you. I got you.
Thank you.
All right, we need a roll call for that.
Yes. All in favor, I'm sorry, I might have worked with you with it.
Okay, well, you need to read the names. Roll call for
Okay.
approval?
Charles, yes. Powers,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Nicosia,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Choi? Yes. Okay, motion carried.
Motion carried. All right, item number 8, DDA reports. We could start with the OR committee report. Oh, it did not meet this month, so I assume there's no report. I'm smart like that. Item 7B, the EV committee report.
Let me just pull it up.
Yeah.
Do that with you there.
Let's see.
Turn it off to the part of it.
Ron, you were present, would you go over to it?
Well, I'll just go through it real quickly, really without reading from here. First of all, in all the committee reports, I mentioned this to Kimberly as well, in the future, everybody who attends the meeting should have recorded attendance. That's not in the reports, really.
Just to make a note, the EV committee met after we put the board packet together, so that was the reason for the EV one. This is their agenda, not their meeting minutes. Promo, I will fully acknowledge I missed that this month.
Okay, but the point being is we should record attendance and then record how people vote, those kind of things when we have some issues that pop up. It becomes a matter of public record. So we need to go back and amend that for the next month. Okay. Just to summarize real quick, we talked about at the ED committee, we went through the usual trolley, right? That can be a permanent part of the ED committee. We also discussed the movie theater, what we can do to help the movie theater, which we discussed the past meeting there too. The idea of bringing more pedestrian traffic into the village, helps some of the businesses in town. CJ Gosner, who is the chairperson, he, to give him credit, made some effort to meet with the movie theater folks and the theater group to possibly look at doing some presentations or some shows at the theater. He also talked with some business owners, Mr. Schneider in particular, about some ideas to bring more traffic into the village area. Give CJ credit for taking the time and effort to do that. That primarily was what the discussion was. Unless Marie, you were at the meeting, if you want to add something.
No, those were the main topics of
Okay.
discussion. Yep.
Very good.
Thank you. Did you want to give a synopsis on the program?
Sure. So most of our time was spent talking about the Soup and Sweet Stroll and any feedback that we got either through the promo committee or through what they heard that evening. Overall, very positive. A lot of good changes this year. Closing off Burdick was a very good move. I think having more garbage cans was also a really good move. There was some feedback around changing the colors on the lanyards because there was somebody that had mentioned that maybe there was some shenanigans going on with using past ones that maybe looked similar and businesses weren't checking very closely. Obviously, it's a busy night. And then we talked a little bit about, what we could do differently for next year, maybe offering for people that maybe can't afford a ticket for them and or their family, if there's like a donation type scenario where people could donate a ticket. We had a situation in the volunteer group, I think, that posed that topic and made somebody question whether they were volunteering for the right reasons or just to get a ticket. So that kind of prompted that. And then just more on the planning side, I think there was some feedback there. We talked a little bit more about volunteers and having more of a strategic process around getting volunteers, maybe having quarterly meetings to solicit volunteerism and having a calendar of events that people could sign up for ahead of time so that they could know, if something struck them as a passion, that we could get them signed up ahead of time, just kind of a better understanding of what needs we have from a business standpoint. We also talked about the Polar Express, which took place yesterday. At that time that we had the meeting, we still needed volunteers. So Holly was going to reach out to some of the Soup and Sweet volunteers to see if we could get any, which we did, so she did great there. Angie stepped in and was Mrs. Claus for the event, so that was wonderful. And then Holly donated, from Open Corners, donated the costume to the DDA so that we could use for future years as well. Holly is going to be taking over as the lead of the promo committee starting in January. And then just a reminder to the team that the accreditation is on February 5th. Our biggest focus in January at the promo committee is going to be talking about kind of the calendar of events and also our work plans in preparation of the accreditation.
Okay, thank you. Next is the design committee.
I can speak to that one as well because Catherine's not here. So we had I'm trying to remember, it's been a minute since this meeting. We talked about the historical, let me give it a meeting minutes here. I apologize. We talked about some of the open items around the decorations. We still had to decorate for the Santa, the Polar Express event, so we talked about dates for that. We talked about this historical sign project. I was not involved in that, so they were bringing me up to speed and kind of pointing me in the right direction of where to look for that information so we could continue to move forward. We did talk about the trolley, about how to not necessarily how to maintain it, but some of the challenges that we've had around volunteerism, getting it decorated, getting it started, keeping it on the road. No grants were submitted. We didn't discuss anything around the budget, although we did talk about workshops that we probably will need to have as we move into the budget season. Upcoming events, we talked about, this was 2 weeks ago, I think, so it was before the Soup and Sweet Stroll. We talked about that, the parade, holiday market in Santa, at the dealership, Polar Express. In regards to placemaking, we had some lights out at that point, so I was working with Excel to get those up and running in Washington Square. The patio, we talked about the activities that were happening through there. Yep. So yeah, moving forward on decorating the truck in Washington Square. And then Catherine had announced that she may not be part of the DDA going forward, so we were sad to hear that.
Okay, any questions or, yes, Ashley?
A couple questions. Design committee, the historical signs, I guess I just didn't understand that aspect of it.
So there was a project that was kicked off over the summer that the interns started, from my understanding, and that was something that Kelly worked with them on. I was not part of that, but I believe it was to highlight different buildings in the downtown and have images surrounding that, and then having those put on like a placard onto the building somehow, or near the building.
Okay.
Yeah, Rod, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead and finish, I'll just add on.
I don't have, honestly, I don't have much to add, to be honest.
Oh, yes, sir.
A little bit there, I wasn't on that committee either, but as you know, I try to support those ideas of some of the historical significance of things in town. The idea would be, or is, to use the present tense, to have some markers on buildings with background in each individual building. You know, built in 1901, maybe some history of who the owners were at different times, things like that, which I find, you know, when I go to certain towns, I'll sometimes walk and look at these kinds of things myself. So looking at the Economic Vitality Committee, when we talk about trying to get more people into downtown for shopping or walk, you know, whatever they're gonna do, people like those kind of things. I don't know any people, when you go on vacation, you see these historic markers.
Sure.
So that's kind of the motivation for doing that. And I can't remember who had the idea, but instead of putting a brass marker there that can't be changed, somebody had the idea of putting some kind of marker with a QR code on it. So that way it could be changed as we get new owners and things like that in different buildings.
I
So
think
that was-
Orion did something.
Yeah, Orion did something like that downtown, but that's kind of the overview of that sort of thing. And then with our Economic Vitality Committee that I mentioned earlier, that Marie brought up something during the meeting I neglected to mention, that is, one of the appeals of the village of Oxford to a lot of people is the word that Marie used was quaint. Gotta give her credit for this stuff, see? Whatever credit's due. But it does bring people into town. You know, I've heard that for many, many years. So the whole idea, Kimberly, is to do something that ties in with that quaint feel. They walk around and buy a pizza from Scott or something like that while they're shopping.
Do you know, because there's something on here that there was a question around if it was a grant-funded activity, do you know?
I don't know anything about grant funding. It might have been something that was being looked at, but it was never discussed that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I guess follow-up to that, and just putting it out there for all committees, with the New Start plan versus our motto, Bridging Home and History, and then we're talking about historical signs, maybe there's some time for discussion, or maybe it's in all of the committees about how our strategic plan and our motto fit with that, because outside of that, I think this is one of the first times I've seen. Do we lose sound?
I think the fridge kicked off or something.
Okay.
The village manager will help.
Anything about that, so just kind of like a pin it for later to keep thinking about. And then I had one other,
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Yes, completely.
Are you saying that we're not, like, the motto is bridging home and history, and that we're not, as a DDA, kind of fostering that history piece?
yes.
Okay.
But I also think that's what bubbled up in the strategic plan, is that didn't seem to be a priority from everyone.
Right.
So I think it's just a bigger conversation where I love home and history, but
Mhm.
that can't be Ashley's passion project, that has to be coming out
Right.
of the whole community. Sure. My only other thought, I already shared this with Kimberly on these. First, I obviously haven't been here in a while, so this is like the best everything has looked ever, so kudos team. My only other thought was maybe on consolidating what is official agenda and official notes, just to be very concise and then rely on, I guess, the reports. I think some of these are kind of too far in the weeds, and then you get me asking all of these wild questions that maybe we don't need the whole group input in. That's where I am.
Are you talking about the committee reports?
I'm kind of talking,
Too detailed or?
a little bit of both. I'll use EV, for example. I wasn't there this last meeting, but since that's been my home for a while, we're talking about stuff like lacks context, lacks funding, lacks, certain knowledge. And I think there's ways that we could just say, we're gonna connect the theater group with this theater group.
Actually, to that point, we discussed that at our EV committee meeting, if you remember. And we actually, the most recent, we never got a copy of the meeting, its members. CJ had it, we never, but I agree with you, they could be more succinct. But I still know we need to have minutes recorded too, by the way.
I agree. I 100% agree. I think this is done with the best of intent.
Yes.
I just don't think if somebody picked this up and I'm whatever business and, I don't have contacts, I don't have grant knowledge, I don't have business knowledge, like, that doesn't make me feel good, and we're really trying to uplift
No, I agree with you,
all
that's
our
what I said.
partners.
Maria and I were at the meeting, and we never got a copy of it. This is the first time I saw it.
Okay. I think it actually all lives in my Google Drive
It
still,
is, yeah.
so I will reshare that link.
Okay. Any other discussion on the above committees? All right.
I just wanted to say,
Yes, Scott.
sorry, sometimes I just talk a lot. I thought the soup and stroll was the best one thus far. I think that the DPW really shined. Obviously, they came out and with getting all the snow out of the road, because, 8 hours before, I thought, man, I'm gonna have to go buy some shovels and we're gonna shovel this whole, the parking spaces. I mean, the sidewalks have been great, but they took care of that. The burning barrels, there was always wood there. They were constantly around, and I just, they need to know that goes noticed, that they didn't just work overtime and then they were gone, because they were there. But no, I thought everything else was great, and then it was I kind of had the same thought on if somewhere there was a repository of people's extra soup passes. I had several people come up to me and say, I bought 4 and my kids didn't want to come, and they just handed them to me. So I was able to hook a couple people up outside, because they were from out of town, they didn't really know what was going on, and they're like, we want to be a part. I'm like, here you go, welcome to Oxford. So, and I don't know if that means maybe we even each have 4 or 5 or something like that. But I know last year that was a lot bigger issue of, number one, people not knowing about it and not knowing the whole card thing. So I think just time has shown, folks know what's up, and they also knew they needed to buy their tickets early. So they automatically bought them for their family, and then they had extras. So I don't actually know what the answer is, but I think it would be cool to be able to foster that, as far as, hey, if we've got them and they're extra and somebody already paid for them, get them used somehow.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Executive Director?
All right, so it's been a whirlwind of a month. A lot of events over the last month since I've talked to y'all. You can, I won't read through them, but you can see all of the different events. I'm working on let me rephrase that. I will be working on putting more structure around a recap. So having more details around the data of how much money do we bring in, how much money do we spend, do we think it's worth it to continue. We can pull analytic data from Oakland County around the number of people that came into town, where they came from, how long they stayed. So looking at that when it comes to reach and how we can better promote some of the events that we want to target outside of just Oxford. A lot of meetings also in the last month. I'm also working on personal development as, you know, just general wanting to, but also as part of my role and being new into this position. Just the general day-to-day things. Yes. Supporting board, okay. Support board and committee openings by soliciting interest. So yes, we did obviously know that we had some openings on the board. We had some openings within our committees as well. So just reaching out and talking to people to see if they were interested. And we have some new faces here. So that's exciting. I did have a meeting with a property owner that went very well. It was good insight to see that perspective. Helped to support the businesses through some of the things that they were trying to do on their own over the last month. I met with our consultant for the strategic plan, so she walked me through in detail the strategic plan and kind of with the change in staffing, how that might look over the next year, kind of pausing on maybe moving forward with some of them and recalibrating on organizational improvements and kind of structure. Downtown decoration, skylight reimbursement, which we'll get into, it's on the agenda, so I'm going to skip that one. Trying to continue to foster relationships with the village and the boards and the council. Participated in village recognition events and appreciation activities. So to speak to Scott, a very long time coming, provided some recognition from the DDA specifically to DPW as a thank you for all that they do for us. And they seemed, I don't know if you've heard anything, Joe, but Don was very appreciative of that. So that was really, it made me feel good because it's always been something that's been on my mind, but it was nice to be able to do it. So that was nice. And then looking at 2025 calendar and priority planning, very initial stages of that, but just more talking, thinking, communicating about that, but thinking about what our priorities for 2025 are. We may or may not have full sponsorship for the trolley for 2025, so that's something to consider. We may not have full participation from our current partners in Lake Orion from a financial perspective for 2025. So these are things that we need to think about what that would look like. Because we did talk a little bit about maybe reallocating some of our Stronger Together funding to move it from event focused to more development focused for the businesses, maybe some trainings or development opportunities for the business owners instead of events to bring people into downtown. That's not to say that we're not going to have events, just really looking at maybe redistributing the mix of resources for 2025. And then from a staffing standpoint, I'm going to pause on that as well because that is also on the agenda.
Okay, I have a question on the trolley.
Yep.
What are the next steps for that as far as determining the involvement with Lake Orion, who's paying for what, and
Sure.
kind of where do we go from here?
So they are having, and also this is on our agenda as well, which I thought was an amazing idea. They're having, like, it's not a strategic plan per se, but it's more short term, maybe over 2025 with their board in January. So they're going to be looking at what they want to do over the course of 2025, how they want to allocate their budget, what they think is most priority driven. I think that might be a good option for us to do as well as a group. I know we have the strategic plan, but that was a longer term, bigger project. When we're looking at deliverables for 2025, I personally would love to hear your input around what you think priorities are for the DDA. So I think once they get through that first phase, they'll have a better idea from a financial standpoint what they're looking to do to support. The trolley is offline until probably the end of February, so we do have a little time. And if we want to proceed on our own, trying to obtain sponsorships, that's an option.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe in January we would start to develop a plan for
Yes.
how we're gonna keep this rolling, no pun intended.
Yes. The other thing to consider is it's going in for maintenance. And so as of right now, I'm being told that the bill is not going to be that large, but if the bill is a substantial bill, that might be something we will obviously need to discuss from an approval standpoint, but also a, does this make sense standpoint?
I mean, I know a lot of our committees touch on the trolley in some way or form, so I'm just wondering how all those efforts are gonna be coordinated so that we have a plan going forward in
Yeah.
2025. Yes,
Yeah, just to tie that, last meeting I mentioned the trolley because, we bought it at a pretty good price. The issue is the maintenance cost. And originally we sided with NODA to operate it because they had the drivers and a place to park it. And Orion was kicking apart, but they're backing out of that. So that's where we have to look at what we're gonna do in the future. Do we end up selling it or
Right.
whatever else? But if we keep it, we have to understand that's gonna be a financial obligation on our part. Or if we bought a new one, those are, when I looked at that maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, those are, $250,000 to $300,000, unless we bought another used one.
and if we keep it, do we keep the same format of running it between Lake Orion and Oxford? Or is it going to become
Right.
an Oxford-only trolley, and if so, where are we gonna run it?
When I talked to the mayor, one of the gross points at the time, he actually had 2 trolleys, because one would work and one wouldn't, so he could flip-flop them back and forth.
Yeah. I will say, just through my experience through the Polar Express activity, we had a little snafu last minute where we thought we might not have the trolley running for that event. We had, unfortunately, Lake Orion had their event Saturday, we had our Sunday, and the trolley did not run for their event, so they had to have 2 NODA buses instead of the trolley. And the feedback both from Lake Orion and from Oxford is that it's the novelty of a trolley. So it's not necessarily the transportation from here to there that people need to have that. It's more of like an entertainment activity. So I don't know that if we don't have a trolley, I don't know that we would need to replace it with something.
Yes, Ashley.
TBD.
First, I guess I would suggest maybe this goes into EV committee, because I think a lot of it came out of EV committee, in terms of making recommendations. But I'm disheartened to hear about the partnership, but not surprised. But I do think it opens us up for other opportunities. And I do think, yes, we're the DDA district, but we've been hearing lots of feedback from all over that people are interested in it, but for, like you said, for novelty,
Yeah.
not necessarily
Private events and whatnot.
Not for
private events,
transportation.
or, moving something into the township to bring people in, we've talked about that water stone stuff. But I'm wondering if EV committee could take a first crack at it and see.
Shoot me a note,
Yes,
maybe
Rod?
an email or something, and we'll make sure we look into it. That might be the direction, sorry to talk about this too much, that might be the direction we go, is within the township area, be it Legacy Center or Waterstone or whatever else that might be appropriate if Warren's not desiring of continuing that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it has not been solidified that they're not participating, but it's just,
And for,
it's been thrown out there as a possibility. So,
Well, I wonder if there's data to support, I know we've talked about this before, data to support how people use it and who uses it, and I'm wondering if perhaps they are not seeing the benefit
they
to
do,
their residents.
they do, so
Okay.
it's tricky, let me rephrase that, they have the data. So I got a kind of a summary over the last couple of years from NODA of the ridership, and so I shared that with them. It's tricky though, because you have to think that they're clicking a button to say these are the number of people entering the trolley at any given time. So in theory, one might say, cut that in half. Because if you're getting picked up here and dropped off there, you're assuming that they're gonna get picked up there and dropped off here. I can have that prepared for the next board meeting so you all can see it. But they're not, and we can't tell what's in Lake Orion versus what's in Oxford. They're not to that level, it's just a number.
Okay. I mean, I would support the idea of having the EV committee take a stab at it and take the lead on, looking at future usage and how it could be best utilized. I mean, I would as a downtown business owner, I would be very sad to see it go, because I think it does help bring new people into town, and, so I think there's the novelty aspect for sure, which we already know is very popular, but I think there is some benefit to the transportation aspect of being able to go into Lake Orion and Oxford and back again, to bring, you know, new people into town. So I, as a business owner, would hate to see that go away.
One of the statistics that we came across, we had this discussion last year.
Raj, you weren't recognized.
That's two! Yes, Scott, hold on, we can talk.
Go ahead, okay, Scott.
No, I was just, go ahead, it's fine.
Well, just to finish up on that, previously we looked at where, in the ED committee, where a lot of people from outside of Oxford were coming from, or a lot of people coming from Brandon. I think that was number one of all the areas around here. So, your turn, Scott.
I was just gonna say, it's almost like there's two different, you're talking about two different things, like you have these 4 events during the year that are trolley focused, right? Like, you can't have a Polar Express if it's not a cool vehicle. But I think that, also being a business owner where they drop them off behind me and in front of me, I think it's a huge piece of having those people being able to come in and park down there, you know, keep their car out of here, but, you know, the people still come. So that's, my suggestion had been, is it the novelty of having the actual trolley, or is it the convenience of having a vehicle to get you from Orion to Oxford and Oxford to Orion? And I think it's more B, but, I mean, especially when you're talking about St. Patrick's Day and things like, when the thing's packed, right? Because then you can be very choosy if we're not worried about a trolley, and I'm not anti-trolley, but if, let's say the trolley was gone and we were worried about getting people from Orion to Oxford and Oxford to Orion or Waterstone or wherever, you could pick those days, you know, and not just, you know, on a Saturday in February when none of us do any business, you know, and nobody's out because it's 0 degrees, you could say, hey, we probably aren't gonna run the bus today. But that might be a reason to run the bus, so.
It's not gonna start anyway.
I'm not talking about that bus, I'm talking about a real bus. That's warm,
That
yeah,
has heat, right?
yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, so to kind of summarize this, are we proposing that we ask the EV committee to take this on and see what logical next steps are for 2025, with or without Lake Orion partnership? Okay, all right, thank you. Agenda item number 9 is unfinished or old business, and first item is 9A, staffing.
So just really quick before, just one more thing I wanted to share. I got some feedback from one of our newer businesses in town after the Soup and Sweet, and this is what they said. What a fun night. Thank you for all that you do. I just can't get over all of the community support Oxford has. I wish we had that in their town that they had a different business in. So that was lovely to hear that they feel that Oxford is a great place to have a business and have a good community from a business owner standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
From a staffing, just wanted to give a quick update on that. I went through a process a couple weeks ago with the initial applicants and scheduled some phone screens. Unfortunately, several of those didn't work out. Various reasons, commute time, some people thought it was more marketing, website type driven versus the actual job description, or they felt like it might be a remote option more so than being in the office. So my plan over the next 2 weeks is to go through the next group of applicants and select more to do phone screens with, and that's where we're at on that.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay. I think it's time for Mr. Scholes. 9B, crosswalk proposal.
So this is gonna be in tandem, Joe and Pete. I think Joe's gonna
Okay.
kind of kick
Okay.
it off, and then Pete can
Okay.
make any amendments.
Just go wait.
Does he? You in there, Pete? Did you ever hear anything?
I see
Okay.
chairs.
Just to make it easier communication wise too, Pete and I were both there to walk the areas together.
Yeah.
Can you give us background since we haven't been here?
Okay, so the
Me too.
Unless you know the background, then I'm just, it's just for
Right.
me.
So Oakland County has their ARPA funds, they came down with ways to spend those ARPA funds. One of the ways was reaching out to their downtown communities for placemaking and those type of activities. So the grant process, I mean, it was probably January of last year, I remember walking in to be Elvis and Scott Cree was in there with Kelly and looking at one of the sketches in their application is some of those early sketches west of the intersection, or east of the intersection on East Burdick, kind of where the arch is now, where the proposed sidewalk or crosswalk is kind of planned. Initial concepts there. And then it went through the process through last summer, where Kelly and the DA were putting together applications for the ARPA funds through the county. August, it came to the village council to say, hey, you know, yes, these are your streets. We would like to go through a project and apply for a grant to put 2 crosswalks in, one on West Burdick, one on East Burdick. And there was other aspects of the grant too, and part of the reason that the council had to get involved is because the ARPA funds are federal dollars that would flow to the county and then come to us using our SAM account. Our SAM account is System for Award Management for Federal Dollars, right? Yep. And then they also have a unique identity identifier number, which is all of this stuff is going to flow through in the name of the village of Oxford and using our number. Because the DDA doesn't have its own tax ID number, it isn't an entity in that sense, right, where it has a SAM account and stuff like that. So for those reasons, we ensured that, hey, it's got to go back to the council to accept this premise that you're going to, the DDA would apply for a grant, because there's always someone standing on the bottom line that says, yeah, we will spend these federal dollars appropriately and all that. Went through that process, the grant was put in, everything went through. Kelsey and I even sat through an online version with a couple folks from the county going over all, because I had some questions about Davis-Bacon Act and things like that when you're using federal dollars for the procurement process and things like that. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of fine print. So I think some of those initial questions were answered just fine, and they moved forward with funding. As a matter of fact, I was going to look today, I looked in your revenue and expenditure report. I don't see the funds there yet, because it's kind of odd. Normally you do a grant, you spend all your money, you get your ducks in a row, you turn your paperwork in, and you get some reimbursement. In this particular grant, within like 90 days of being approved, they're going to send you like 75% of the money up front, which is so backwards. But I guess some of the communities needed the money up front because they're dealing with a lot of them around the county. You know, they needed some assurance that the money was there, get the ball rolling, and start on their projects. So, gosh,
Is Oakland County sending the money? Or
Yes.
is it- Okay.
Oakland County is.
yes. So it was probably 2 months ago, I would say maybe first part of October, that Pete, myself, and Paul, who was an engineer from Road Professional Services, walked the sidewalks and the crosswalk area. So on the map, I have it marked out East Burdick and West Burdick with the yellow highlighted lines, the locations of the crosswalks as proposed. And we walked all the spaces in between them as well. So when we asked Paul from Road too, so look, as you're walking through, let me back up one more little bit to get some context. When M24 came through, MDOT came through with the M24 project, they could only go around the corner and replace this sidewalk and the curb and the brick pavers and stuff within their right of way. As you come around, especially on East Burdick there on the south side, there's a lot of wavy bricks, a lot of broken concrete, there's tree wells that are now been filled with dirt. Between there and that crosswalk over on East Burdick, there's a lot of spots that need repairing. On the north side and the south side, same thing on the south side of the museum, and then across from the museum too. So we walked all of that back and forth on both the north and south side. And while you're there with cement crews and removing and replacing and stuff, there's no time like the present to, hey, there's busted road, there's heat. So a lot of marks and thoughts or notes were made to, that's gotta be replaced, that's gotta be replaced as well. So we asked Roe to break it down. What is it just the crosswalks? You know, the ramps and ADA ramps, everything for the crosswalks and the markings. And then break out what the other remove and replace, repair areas were. Again, Pete and I walked those, you know, and I deferred to Pete. I'm like, I'm not here to spend your money, but he would bounce it off with me. We would talk about those. The old wavy bricks, pavers along the curb, as you come around 24, say heading towards the monogram shop there on the east, that would be removed and replaced with the stamped look concrete, so it looks like that, kind of like was done in the northeast and southeast projects they did in the last couple of years. Wouldn't be new brick pavers, it'd be the stamped concrete, colored concrete ribbon along the edge. And as well as removal, like the old tree walls that have now been kind of filled in, removed and replaced, broken and cracked stuff as well.
Is this entire grant just for crosswalks? Like, what did we apply for?
Various things, placemaking in general, and walkability, connecting the downtown, getting people to areas to more, sit more, walk more. If you look at the grant, and I just reviewed it today, the application, there was even something, a crosswalk proposed down across from Marketplace Mall, like the new car wash. Again, I don't, yes, in theory, that'd be great, but I don't think that's ever gonna get approved by MDOT. So it's those type of things that, were in the grant, do better the walkability and stuff.
How much
Yep.
money did we get?
325,000, I have it right here. I think it's in, I don't know if it was in your packet. I wrote down my little cheat sheet here.
We have to match two by way, actually.
Yep, it's 60-40, 60% DDA, 40% county, for a total of 335,000. So.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yep, 335,000 total, 201 from DDA, 134 from the county. And the counties represents 40% of it.
Yes, Rod, question?
When you say these crosswalks on the map here, what is that gonna be? What is it gonna look like physically? Is it just some brick pavers across the road?
No.
I don't get it.
No, it would, well, you can't just have step off curb, right? So that curb would be removed and placed with the proper slope down, you might have to go back even.
Okay, so you don't have a curb there, that's one thing.
Yeah, you gotta put the
What
curb
else?
cuts in there, you gotta get the notification pads you see down there, the brown pads with the bumps on them that go on there. You have to have the striping on the pavement as well. You have to have signs mounted and directional signs pointing and indicating there's a sidewalk there for the drivers in the area. So, and there was a lot of debate at the council whether these were needed, whether it's the right spot, and Chief Sowell basically said, look, Kelly knew it as well, and anybody that's out there during certain nights will see that. People are crossing there already. So, and if you go back to the design standards, Rose shared them with us, that there's a lot of ways you can determine where crosswalks are, and you can observe traffic patterns. Well, we know this pattern is where we're using it. So, if they're already doing it, by labeling it with signage and marking the pavement markings across the street, it's just gonna make it safer.
So to answer my question, it's more the physical changes to the road
Yes.
itself is the answer to the question.
Yes, again, the infrastructure, the signage.
Signs, painting it,
And the painting.
fixing the curb so people, whatever.
Well, to make it meet, design standards, right?
Okay.
In addition to that, again, the walkability, the placemaking aspect of their application and grant was to, you're not gonna leave a 100 foot of sidewalk when half of it's broken and cobbled and messed up.
There's
So-
two places that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gonna cost $300,000 to do, put
No.
some signs up and break
There was,
up.
no, so in addition to that, no, the breakdown is, this is only, well, you see the cost in front of you in your packet from Rob, of what the estimates are for that, I don't have my
It's in there.
So in addition to that, part of the grant was to redo all of the wooden artwork and millwork on the gazebo. Because if you look at it, it looks great, until you get close to it, you realize a lot of it is rotted and beyond its life.
So
Those are-
project 2, the streetscape is.
So, no.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to
So-
follow along.
Joe,
so-
do you have this? Joe, this one?
Yes,
Okay,
I believe.
because I think they're asking the
It's
difference
here, right?
between the
So-
things.
Yeah, well, we have two different questions being asked, I guess.
Sorry.
The overall project is what I'm trying
Yes.
to explain to Ashley and Jay, because there's a lot more to it than just the crosswalks. The crosswalks in this particular part is a part of it. And if you see, what are those amounts?
$48,000 for the crosswalk.
Says you're looking at
What did you say?
crosswalk,
What was that, Pete?
$184,000 for the crosswalk project
yeah.
and the sidewalk.
So if you look at
Yeah,
project
the
one,
sidewalk.
yeah,
Oh, yes.
So that would be 1 and 2.
yeah, 1 and 2. Yes, now, well, you'll see a third column, and I asked that put in there for discussion, because when we did our paving project on East Burdick, we did it, October-ish. We went from Mill Street over to Glassy. We did mostly in the northbound lane because it was some bad areas there. We replaced some curb and stuff along that north side as well. When we came to the radius around the intersection at Mill Street by Burdick Street Equipment's parking lot, we had to replace that curb and stuff because the drain structure, it was really bad and failing in there. We didn't have in our project to go back and go up the sidewalks and fix that ADA ramp area. So you'll notice it's blacktop behind that new curb. because that wasn't part of our scope. But when we did that project, right, that needs to be addressed. Maybe we'll do that next spring. So when talking to Paul, putting this together, he said, look, if we're gonna do that, 'cause that's all fully within the DDA district, that kind of work, that type of work falls in the scope of what this grant is from the county. And if they're gonna pay 40% of it, why not do it then? You're gonna get a much better price to do it. So that's something that I am asking you to consider as well. That number 3, which is strictly related to the ADA ramp area on the northeast corner of Frederick and Mill. You'll see the new curb and everything that we put there. But that sidewalk, probably 2 or 3 flags either direction, plus that ramp coming down is out of compliance pretty far. That's why you gotta go back 2 or 3 flags or so to get the right slopes down to that intersection. That's something that only came to light in the last couple of months, and then only thought, well, why not see if it can be rolled into this? Because there are parts of, the larger parts of the grant, again, what Pete mentioned, that's 184, doesn't count the 22 that we were possibly looking at for Mill Street. Doesn't include the work on the gazebo. Doesn't include, there's also, if you look at the application, there was some talk, I think it's kind of gone to the wayside of putting an ADA ramp, accessible ramp on the gazebo. The gazebo's gone. It'd be really burdensome, I think, and hard to get that, there were some mock-ups done. You can go through all this back and forth ramps to get somebody up onto that, what is it, 15-foot square area for, and we even talking to the difficultiness of that when we were, Kelsey and I were on the online meeting with the county. That's, you're taking a historical structure, you're gonna make it look really funky. I put this big old ramp on the side. So that cost may have been rolled in there. I don't remember what that cost was in their application. It could be $16,000, $18,000. That was kind of all rolled, snowballed into this larger project to come up with a 335. You already did the northeast area behind the schools. You already did the southeast area behind Victoria's. There was a thought of, in a highlighted area in your application, like behind 24th Street and Evergreens. I was gonna say Big Bonds, but Evergreens. About we're doing something similar to that, maybe sprucing up that area, maybe get some more additional seating there. And then.
Was there like wayfinding, was that part of it as well?
Wayfinding might have been part of it as well as some signage and stuff. So all of those things were all rolled in to the larger project to come up with the 335.
So all these projects, I'm gonna say, you're talking, the gazebo and everything else is buried somewhere here.
Yes.
It's buried in there, because who can figure out what you just said as far as.
The only thing
projects?
that's-
There must be 50 things you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, those are all submitted on your behalf last summer.
Well, I'm not asking who's behalf, I'm just saying they're not delineated here, it's just,
I just have.
Yeah,
it's an amorphous mess.
Well, what I'm at.
I'm gonna politely disagree. I just don't think, has this board seen that grant application?
I don't believe so because I,
'Cause I don't think
until
you've probably-
today,
yeah.
have not seen it either. And so,
I think that would answer a lot of these
Agreed.
questions, because I don't think it's nobody here can answer that, because I think that
Because
none of
nobody
us.
knows.
Well, and.
Well, but
so-
only one person submitted, and that hasn't been shared with
I know
the board,
Scott
so I
Hughes
think that'll
involved.
answer. Correct, but not
He
the
was
full-
involved, I say, as a committee member, helping some of the design work layout, so that's,
Correct,
right.
but I don't think that he, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he went line
Right,
by
it's not being
line.
brought to the board
Yeah,
before.
I hadn't
Yeah.
seen the grant until it was already done and approved and all their
Correct,
applications.
which I think
So this
is why
fall.
we have these questions and
Right.
feel a little.
So let me back up as to
obligated.
why this is in front of you now. When it was first brought to the council in August, and we said, okay, sure, great, and, the desire and hope from Pete and Kelly was, hey, let's get out there, get this thing rolling, get these in by fall, wasn't gonna happen. By the time you do design work, contractors were already backed up and busy, barely gonna get the work done that they had planned and working on this past fall already. So, you wanna get ahead of this, and if you like this cost, or if you don't like them, if you wanna get the projects done, and you wanna get some design work done, you have to approve the design works. You have to get those estimates out there, January, February, you have to get them out for bid, you have to come back with bids, get approved in the spring, and then have the work done in the summer. Madam Chair.
I have a question.
Yes, oh, sorry, yes.
Trying to follow what we're
Yes,
talking right now.
I did see it.
Okay, question for that, so say we move this forward here. Having worked with grants, my assumption is we'd have to go to Oakland County and have it okayed by them, since the Mill Street was not initially in our grant.
I don't think so.
I think we just heard it wasn't.
no.
The Mill Street is always something hit my radar since our project in October. And we said, you know, we're gonna go with this in the spring, well, why not roll it in with the cement work that's happening 150 feet away?
For the 40%, yeah.
Right, and again, it's all within the district, it's all part of walkability, which is an overall umbrella, which was already approved by the grant. Walkability, placemaking, wayfinding, things like that, to get people to come in and sit down and enjoy, get around the downtown better.
I think,
So there's no additional,
Are you sure?
I can look into
I
this.
just,
since
I
I've
feel
already-
like this, some of this is gonna change our scope rather dramatically. That leaves us with $129,000. And a gazebo project you're saying we can't do.
well, the
So-
woodwork is one aspect of it.
The
and-
ramp
and
is the
again,
second.
Just the ramp was the.
Yeah.
Are we
ramp-
allowed to do the woodwork without doing an ADA compliant project?
Yes.
Can
And I'd love
can we
to-
recognize Pete because
Oh, I'm
he
sorry.
might have some
Yes.
Go ahead, Pete.
clarification.
Thank you.
I didn't see those hand raised.
We did start a project last summer. We walked through with Kelly, Scott Green, Jim Sharp engineer, and myself. And at that point, it was just the crossroads. And it's the same project that we took to the EA board back in September and August, and talked about and explained it, and showed the drawings. And moving forward, that the village needed to approve it, which they did. At that same time, road engineering was too busy to get into it. So it was gonna push it off to 2025 project. In the same scope, as part of the grant, was doing sidewalk repair along Burdick Street, both sides of 44. So I said, why don't we combine this crosswalk project with the streetscape as far as the sidewalk, and hope to get a better price because the contractor will be doing it. So we walked everything, September, October, walked through everything, pointed out the areas that need to be done. So roughly it is exactly from the driveway there behind us, next to the railway place, all the way westerly to Hudson Street, both north side and south side. So we will have the crosswalk project, which they're saying is approximately 49,000 is what their estimate would be, which includes engineering. And then the added sidewalk portion of it is roughly 135. The Mill Street project that Joe's talking about was not a hard project. It's not a part of the grant application to begin with. Definitely, if we want to bid it at the same time for the village to get a better deal, that's fine. But at this point, my personal opinion is this is still a village responsibility for that, for project number 3. The total grant talks about working the gazebo from new railings to roof to making everything, because it's all rotted and everything. There was a portion in there, as you mentioned, about doing the handicap ramp, whether or not that will fit. It also includes some wayfinding around town, so as far as where parking lots are located and everything, so people can find them. And it also, like Joe mentioned, about doing the lane project behind the southwest buildings. So roughly $335,000. The DDA 201,000 responsibility is in the 24-25 budget. And then the other portion of it is in the 25-26 budget. Then we see is the $201,000. This portion of it, which we're looking at doing, like Joe mentioned, is doing this portion of it so we can get it out to bid, because most of this has to be spent by 2026. So it takes a while to get it bid and put together everything, so that's why they're really this portion of it.
September 26th. December. It says September.
Is that helping?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, and you're right, the obligation is done and the funds have to be spent, I think it's September, October-ish of 2026. So you have
Right.
your construction season 25 and construction season 26. And
Right.
so that gives you 2 times. So, and this is the larger probably of the cost, depending on what you come up with behind Evergreens. And you don't want to wait to get, we were kind of at approval of August, not even having talks to our engineer and getting anything that walkabout and stuff. It was just really late in the year to get it done. Engineers, they were backed up, contractors were backed up. So getting ahead of it now, you don't have to approve anything tonight. We're just saying, hey, here's the first time we have some costs on this particular portion of the crosswalks and B, the additional remove and replace and stuff.
Ashley?
Pete, you said you had talked to, Jim Sharp about this. I'm just wondering, did he pull together bids for this?
Jim Sharp actually did the drawings for the crosswalk, and I believe he put some of the specifications together, and I think he came approximately $5,000.
4,000, I think it
I
was.
believe 4,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have a little question when Roland's coming forward saying that they're gonna charge only $12,000 for the engineering of the crossing.
So some of that stuff from Jim was usable. He did have some topo on it, and he was, of course, has talked to Jim Wright and shared. Jim's initial design on the east was different. It was on an angle from the archway, angling across on an angle which, and Roe came and met with us, and then I talked to Jim Sharp about this as well. He said, that really isn't, not only not best practice, but it's really not allowed in a way, because it's, you need to shorten the distance as much as possible, especially for crosswalkers, getting across the road. And I came to Pete and said, look, Roe does the design engineering for the village. And they said, if we wouldn't do it that way, and if you want to do it that way, you're gonna have to find somebody else to do it. Because we won't do this angle thing. As much as great it would be to come out of an archway right there and walk across, it's, I don't know, to the Ron Graham shop, it's what, 30, 40 feet, and then go straight across. And it's much better design, it's shorter distance, and it's safer. So minor changes on what Jim presented, but Jim, you know, he did what he was asked. And so some of that stuff is usable again, but not full design and bid specs. So part of that design and engineering cost is put together the bid spec and the contracts and bid them out, do the evaluation of the bids, get the bids in, analyze those bids, issue the bids. Now, if you want them on-site engineering or on-site inspections, those costs are different. Those are in here at all. But it's to design, bidding it out, I believe, and then the analyzing the bids and putting it into the bid book, which is usually what I think.
Kimberly?
Contract.
Do we have, for this ARPA project, was it delineated what activities and budget is spent in 25 versus 26, or?
I think there was a plan of what they hope to do, but nothing
Okay.
solidified that you had to stick to.
So when we say from a DDA standpoint, we have it in our budget, does that mean like we could go out today and like start
Yeah, from a
writing
piece-
checks for $200,000?
Yeah.
Okay,
Some of it's already in this year, correct, Pete?
okay.
Yeah. And what isn't in this year, you could have left over for the following year?
But the ARPA money was money that the federal government gave away to local municipalities across the United States. States, counties, villages, townships, et cetera, everybody got money based on population. For example, the township got 2.1 million, Orion Township, I believe, got 3.8 million. Joe, I think the village got, what, 380,000? So that money, then, and Oakland County got, I think, $600 million. Wayne County got about $1 billion. But all that $600 million that Oakland County got, we went for some of that money to come back to the DDA. So it comes from the federal government, or taxpayers, let's say. The federal government then gave $600 million to Oakland County, and then as a group of DDA folks, we asked for some of that money to do the things that Joe's talking about.
Yeah, the county came up with this program to try to push some of that money out, because they needed to spend it. They knew there was a
Right,
timeline.
it's not money that's gonna show up again, to answer your question, Kimberly. It's, you know, but that was the food chain right there, that I just
But
described.
your
I'm
match
just-
obligation is what you're talking about.
Well, I'm wondering if we have a specific amount in this year's budget, and then
No.
a different amount in next year's budget, and we have to use it, or if it will roll over.
Even if you had it in this year's budget, and for some reason you didn't spend it, then you have
You still have.
that plus whatever you're gonna budget next year's budget.
If you don't spend it, it's gone.
Got it, after.
But
There are
26.
municipalities that have said they're not gonna be able to spend all the money, in which case they give it up.
Okay,
So one of the things, some of the questions I had, concerns I had was, taking these dollars, there's a lot of fine print. You have the prevailing wage laws, and you have things like that. You have purchasing, procurement procedures that you have to follow using these funds. So part of the conversations I had with Mr. Razingen, I think his name was Brett Razingen from the county, was, are they beholden to some of those? He did respond back to me, it's in the file, and I'll share with everybody his responses. I think they were exempt from the Davis-Bacon prevailing wage laws with this funding. But, there's obviously, if you're using state funding, then you have to report with state funding, and gate capture is, it's not state funding, it comes by way of a state statute, but it's not state funding. And I don't see any issues with that. So that helps a little bit on the procurement and the bidding of it. You don't have quite as much red tape to deal with.
Kimberly?
Just to clarify for my own knowledge, we're not obligated to go with Rowe. This is one bid, and we would put it out for other companies to have their estimate, is that correct?
That is true.
Okay.
We stick with our same engineering company for our infrastructure projects because, again, for 20 years, we did all the sewer and water projects. They did all the prints and things like that. And then there was a time where they had a different management here and they used a different engineering company. Kind of like you don't switch out and take your attorney out for bids every time you have a project, and you don't take your auditors out every time. You kind of stick with them and build in that professional relationship. So we stick with Rowe for our projects, and that's what we prefer for our standards. Because again, now that's still an option. You could go and take that different route if you choose, because it's it's your project, not necessarily ours. As a matter of fact, we, the village, did that a couple years ago too with our crosswalks that we did here on West Burdick and down by the OES school on South Pontiac. Bro was doing some things, they were tied up, whatever. Like, well, we got with Sharp Engineering and we went with him for those crosswalk projects.
Are you agree?
I guess that's my only question, is if Jim was already doing some of these specs and, hey, we don't want a diagonal, we want a crosswalk, and if his price initially seemed less, why would we spend?
He didn't do complete engineering on it,
Okay.
for one. He did preliminary engineering just enough to fit on one paper, put on one sheet. And there are certain,
He's technically in the DDA district, right?
yes.
Okay.
So-
I mean,
so yeah,
just as the.
Again, so all we've engaged Rowe for this, because we were asking for a couple of months now, hey, we need some cost estimates.
Yeah.
People wanted something to bring back to the board to say, where are we at? $5 grand or $105 grand? So that's what's in front of you tonight.
Right?
You mentioned safety, that's the purpose of crosswalks, right?
Yeah.
What's the status of those things that MDOT put up there in M24, those rubber?
We can talk about that outside the meetings. It's not on tonight's agenda or scope. You can
Well,
like-
you mentioned safety, you mentioned crosswalks.
I did, but if you want to go down to MDOT and 24, which we have no jurisdiction over.
Let's
I'm
talk about
happy to have
Burdick
that
then.
conversation.
What about putting those on Burdick?
Not in the lane, I wouldn't suggest them. So, the road commission now is taking over because they do the maintenance for M24. They are contracted through the state of Michigan. We have no jurisdiction on that road. Those have been a problem, and finally, someone from road commission called us a couple of months ago, me and Don, he said, what is the deal with these? They keep getting hammered and broken. He's got a new plan, he's gonna redo them once, put them up on the island more so versus down in the curb areas, because they get wiped out all the time. Again, we don't plow that road, it's not our jurisdiction. So there's problems with those, but now, again, that stuff is being put off to the county. MDOT, I don't think is gonna replace them anymore. It's gonna fall to the county, and the county's just like, well, whose are these, and how do we do them?
Okay.
So Joe, what's the ask here? Is it to approve the engineering costs?
There
or
really
is it-
isn't
Is it just to get the
an ask for
information
that for
in
me.
front of our?
That's a,
Hey, Joe?
yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
This from Roll is an estimated cost of what their engineering cost would be. And then it's an estimated what they think the construction would actually be. So we would be approving the road to move ahead with the engineering, put it off for bid, and then they would bring the bids back for the actual work. And that gets approved by us, and it gets approved by actually it gets approved by us because this is a DDA project.
yes.
The village does not approve it.
You just gotta follow our purchasing procedures, guidelines. Anything over 25,000 has to do the sealed bid process, and obviously, these would be bid out as one project, so it's well over that. So you would have to follow, it has to be advertised in certain areas. Road is the advertising, and they bring those in. Again, right now, they're really, this is just a cost estimate. What, I would suggest that these are more for our, Peter, I don't wanna slow you down, but I don't wanna get ahead of either. I would request from Rowe an agreement in place of a design, that they do with us. We give them, they give us an estimate. Here's our scope of what we're gonna do for you. It's all laid out. Design this, bid this, analyze the bid, go over the bid documents, provide the bid documents, all those things. They do all that stuff, and here's our proposal. You approve that proposal. I think you're a little shy tonight on that information to do this. If that was there and you guys are ready to do so, sure. These numbers I don't think are gonna change, but to have a better document in front of you, what their responsibilities, roles, responsibilities are in front of you is probably better.
But I think we need to make a decision of what package we want them to put the proposal together.
Yes, and I had some notes at my comments at the end about sidewalks and general stuff as well, and ahead of time with state statute, which will kind of circle back to this.
Sorry,
No.
derailed everything.
No, that's okay, no, it wasn't gonna come up right now anyway. About the role of DDAs, why they exist, and infrastructure being one of the main reasons why they exist. And that's why I think, even though this was outside of that delineated scope, it still was in the purview of the DDA to do the ADA ramp repair in the DDA district.
So you are asking for a motion to,
I'm not.
okay,
So I think we are.
Okay.
We need a motion to say which package obviously I think you can decide that you're not prepared to make the decision tonight.
Right,
But
absolutely.
the decision would be, of these 3 projects, what package we would want to move forward with for a formal proposal.
Alright, I'll make a motion.
Requesting Rowe to submit a formal proposal.
Yes. Oh, right, so either way, we would want to have them submit.
I have no idea what you said, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, he said the motion would also include having a formal proposal.
For the role,
Okay.
for the role in her.
go for it, Ashley.
I will make a motion for Rowe to prepare a formal proposal that covers projects 1, 2, and 3 as presented in this memorandum.
Support.
All in favor?
Oh, we have to do
We
it.
have to do.
Oh, it's
roll call.
financial.
Do the roll call.
Yep,
It's
sorry.
financial.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, Charles? Yes.
Marie,
Powers.
Powers, yes.
Yes.
Jacob?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Madam Chair? Just to clarify what that meant. Prepare a proposal for your consideration at next month's meeting? Or
Yes.
prepare these bid documents and to go out to bid, I guess, is my clarification need.
I said proposal,
Okay, that's what
because
I
I
thought.
think that covers, that was an agreement that we would do projects 1, 2, and 3
Okay.
in this. I can amend, no, I have to make a new one.
I think your intention was to do the whole cake and roll, right?
I just want to be very clear though, that my intention was, I would love to see it get out to bid for all 3 projects. I'm happy to go
And prepare is what he brought up.
prepare, and you're saying we could post, because we are time constrained on this, right?
Yeah, you want to bid in the spring for sure.
So,
And-
to move forward,
Okay, so then if we're gonna do it, if we're gonna change this, then we need to vote down the first amendment, the first proposal.
Well, she defines what her proposal
No,
was.
we have to vote it down and then redo it.
It's what she was,
We need clarification.
yes, that's all I needed.
If you're happy with that being the clarification verbally, otherwise we have to vote it down and then redo it.
let's vote it down and I'll reword it.
All right.
Okay, Charles, we're voting, no means get it off the table, yes means keep it, right? Just so we don't, there's all say no. Marie?
Powers, no.
Scott?
No.
Jacob?
No.
Ashley?
No,
Jay?
No.
Motion fails, so now redo your
New
motion.
motion.
I am going to make a new motion. I am going to make a motion for Rowe to create a proposal and bid packet for projects 1, 2, and 3 as proposed in this memorandum to start the process with engineering costs to be no higher than $47,000.
Support.
Does that mean, am I missing anything? Thank you. I'm rusty.
No, you're not, we know you too well, I know. Okay.
Roll call.
All right, roll call, Charles, yes, Powers?
Yes,
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
David? Ashley?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
all right, passes. Thank
It's
you.
like,
What
what?
Oh, gee, you got all kinds of your first meeting.
am I getting
Yeehaw.
myself into?
Second that motion.
All right, moving right along.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 10A, Skyline Light reimbursement.
So this is, I wanted to bring this up for discussion. So when the Skyline Lights, my proposal is we need to come to an agreement on a process for reimbursement for the Skyline Lights and the downtown patio lights. Unfortunately, it appears as though none of the businesses have been reimbursed at this time for an agreement that was made over a year ago. So I have gotten all of the data together and I'm ready to proceed with making a payment for the last year. My question would be, how would we like to proceed from a payment standpoint? Do we want to do quarterly, twice a year, annually?
Yes.
I mean, I've received comments from business owners, as you know, but no one said any annually or monthly. It's a relatively small amount, isn't it?
It depends on the business. Some of them are much lower than others.
What's the high and the low?
The highest one we have is 145 and the lowest is 19
For a year.
for a year.
Well, just pay the year.
Yeah,
Alright.
that's why I asked the high and low.
Do we want to prepay or postpay?
Post-pay.
Postpay. So once a year, we'll pay for the prior year's cost incurred. Okay,
And
perfect.
if I may ask, and so I can tie to, I don't know how to affect your business, but just, we need to communicate to the business owners, just because of my interaction with different business owners, they politely, by the way, no one's been craggy or anything like that, but they've asked about it, which is fair, so just make sure we tell people, hey, we are paying indeed,
Sure.
and we'll pay at the end of the year, just in case utility rates go up or down.
Yeah, that's
Just
perfect.
communication, right?
And I think that's the biggest challenge, sorry. Go ahead.
I was asking.
Finish your thought.
Oh, I think that's the biggest challenge is we have some business owners that are a little, well, I should say one that's more vocal. She's no longer in the district anymore, so we didn't have a
Yes,
reminder.
that was gonna be my question, is the only playing devil's advocate as I think through, I inherently wanna say a year, but I don't know if we wanna do twice a year, just in case there are any
It's
businesses.
small amount, let's not fiddle around.
I don't know, 145 can be,
No, it
I
isn't.
don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Well, you were successful.
And I don't even know if they're plugged into my building. I'm guessing they're not.
They are
'cause it's- Okay.
Yeah, because I reached out to all of the business owners that are on the list and none of them have received reimbursement. They didn't, they're like, oh, thank you, we haven't
Awesome. So they know it's on
seen
your radar.
anything. Because they were told that they would be reimbursed. They just haven't been.
For the record, I'll make a motion for Skylight reimbursement program to be reimbursed on an annual basis by the DDA to the business owners.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
We can do a roll call since it's Monday.
Oh, it's money, yes.
Okay,
Excuse me.
Charles, yes. Powers?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Scott, sorry, another. Jacob?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Jay, it's okay once in a while we say no, by the way.
Motion passes.
Do you see him scooting further? You have a 30-day trial period.
You can retire tonight.
Well, this one should be a lot less controversial.
Oh, yes.
January board meeting, agenda 10B.
Yes, so our next board meeting is scheduled for January 20th, I believe, which is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The office is closed, so I didn't know if we wanted to keep it on that holiday or if we wanted to reschedule.
Well, since we've always kept it, it's never really affected anything here.
I won't be present.
You might not be able to get the door open on my name on it.
There's another reason to have it.
Over here.
That's the point.
Neither will I.
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm
I
gone
don't
that
care.
week too.
Hmm?
I'm gone that week also.
What do our bylaws say when we run into a situation like this?
They don't
I don't
remember
believe
what
it.
the law.
Addresses it.
What's that?
There's nothing in there that I'm familiar with in the bylaws.
I don't remember.
We usually disagree.
We've always met with, that date in the past.
I just wanna make sure we're
We've
not.
never used that date as a reason not to meet,
Or any holiday.
or any
Yeah.
holiday, but,
Christmas?
we never had that conflict.
Yeah, but I don't think you weren't taking our meeting minutes on, I'm sorry, for MLK Day?
Last year was the first year it was a holiday for us, and I didn't come to that meeting. Kelly did the minutes.
Okay.
Or she-
Would you
That's
be
the
able
only
to
thing.
do the minutes then if that was the case?
Pardon me?
Do the minutes if that was the situation?
Yeah, I can.
So
I
we're
mean,
saying
the only argument
keep
for keeping it on the 20th is just because it's part of our schedule, but whatever works,
Yeah, but
I don't care one way or the other.
you're
I'm in
gone,
Australia for 2 weeks.
Scott's gone,
Well, 2 weeks anyhow.
Yeah.
it's gonna be a quick meeting.
I can't make the next one.
We can zoom you in now. Kidding.
Governor said we can't do that anymore.
So what have we decided? Keep the 20th?
Let's push it back a little.
Is the
How many
building gonna be
people are we-
open, is the building gonna be open?
No, we have to get it.
I get it.
Someone with a key.
Oh, be careful.
Temporary.
Oh,
Whoa, she's getting a key. Cool.
just for
About
a
time. Still gonna think
Does your
backwards.
contract follow village employee
for
schedule?
holidays.
It's also
Yes.
inauguration
Yes.
day.
Oh, does it?
Okay, well then,
The
I
20th?
think we have to move it
Oh,
then.
that's right.
So,
But that's easier moving. Scott wants to celebrate inauguration day, he just said, so.
All right.
I knew I'd get it
Sitting
right.
in a bar, maybe.
the 27th?
I will be gone the 27th, but I mean,
We'll just pick a date, we're all gonna have conflicts.
13th.
That's fine. I don't, but at the same time, how much new stuff is gonna be by the 13th?
Right.
I'm hoping not a lot. I'm hoping the next month is the slowest month ever.
That's fine.
So we're missing 2 people on the 20th or just 1? If we keep it on
Two
the
board
20th.
members and your staff.
Right, and we need a key.
What do you propose, Kimberly?
Pardon me?
What do you propose?
I don't have an opinion. I don't mind coming in on the 20th. Because I think we've kind of have an understanding that I work when I need to work and then I take time off when I need to take time off. So I'm not opposed to coming in on the 20th.
I don't like making somebody work on one of
I
their
agree with you.
contractual
I agree with you.
holidays.
Oh, okay, it's Kimberly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move it to the 27th then.
Okay,
Sound good?
You got it.
thank you.
Well, Scott can do the inauguration event.
All right. January 27th is the next board meeting.
Do you have to have a motion for that or no?
I think so.
Well, so you approved your, no, we approve our meetings and yours.
We usually just.
But we kind of left it, but we approved it in 20, depending what year it was, so
I'll
we'll
just
just
do it.
change it. I would prefer a motion that you guys change the January 25 meeting.
I make a motion that we change next PDA board meeting to January 27th.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All not approved? Okay.
That was easy peasy.
Yeah. All right, next agenda item is 10C, new board members. We have 2 new board members present with us today, Ashley Ross and Jay Chow. And if you would just take a few minutes and introduce yourselves, please.
Sorry.
You can say no this time again.
My name is Jay Choi. I've been a resident of the village for 7 years or so, and I got married 2 years ago. We were living actually right above Scott's Pizza Shop, and it was a temporary thing, and then we were like, man, we love it here. So we stayed, we started our own business this year, and now we're just hunkering down, and all the plans to move to Romeo or Rochester are out the window, and we're just settled down here, and we wanted to be involved, and so here we are. And I guess first of all, thank you guys, thank you to this committee to make this town so awesome as it is, and I do hear that word quaint quite a bit.
Yeah, I didn't know that word.
Yeah, from my clients from Rochester, they love coming up here because it's so different than every other little town. And I do see how much is being invested back in by the business owner, by the residents, on all, even the trolley. The trolley, I think it's adds so much flavor and little things like that. We've definitely noticed, and we want to be involved in helping that level up a little bit more, I guess.
Awesome.
Excited to be here.
Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Ross.
Stop right there.
Thanks for letting me come back. I am member at large this time, so just a regular old member with my own opinions. I'm happy to be back. I love the DDA, you know I do, so thanks for letting me come back and be with all of you.
Welcome to both of you. All right, 10D, board committee appointee.
So I will speak on behalf of the DDA. I talked with Pete and Marie. I haven't had a chance to connect with you yet, but with Ashley's joining, we would like to have a motion for her to join the board committee.
I'll make that motion for Ashley and the organization committee.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Or any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And then we'll know about Jay next month.
Okay.
We're giving him a
If he
minute.
comes back,
Pardon me?
if he comes back, right?
If he comes back, yeah.
All right, great. 10E, board training and planning session.
So that was what I mentioned earlier. Wanted to get your thoughts around having a session outside of a board meeting to talk through 2025 strategy. I realize we're all very busy, so I want to keep it very short and sweet. I know when we did the strategic planning, that was a very long session. I have zero intention on having it that long. I'm thinking an hour maybe, just really to understand from a board standpoint what the priorities are as we've gone through a staffing transition, as we're redeveloping and fostering relationships with the village, just looking at what we want to prioritize for 2025. So I just wanted to bring that for discussion.
I think it's a great idea, as long as it's short and sweet. Any other opinions? Yes, yes.
Here comes one now.
Just when you thought.
It's not my opinion, it's the Attorney General's opinion, that
Oh,
all meetings like that will,
Okay.
workshops or not, need to be posted, properly posted, noticed, and documented, and minutes taken,
okay, duly noted.
And open to the public.
and open to the public. Now, and you're more than welcome to use, like we do in our work sessions for our budget meetings, right here, you can post it in the community room. It's more productive to get out of this setting and sit around that table and have those conversations.
Mhm.
It's a lighter, brighter room, there's plenty of room for the camera. Yes, but
Okay.
just keep that in mind.
Whiteboards.
Yeah.
And again, you only need 18 hours to post it to be legal. If you guys are in here, you know what, how about Wednesday evenings? Great, that's 48 hours away. You could do it then, and then you just have to properly post.
Thank you, Joe.
Kimberly, can you propose some dates, perhaps, and email them to us, and then we can do it that way rather than sitting here? and
Yeah, that's a
figure
good
it out?
idea.
Yep.
Yeah, we can look at our calendars.
And that, just to clarify, will be in 2025 because
Thank you.
we are done in 2025.
Okay.
The DDA is shutting
Amen.
down. As in this DDA is shutting down.
Also duly noted.
She is out for the holidays.
I told the village earlier, I may physically be here for the next 2 weeks on occasion, but please don't assume that mentally I am here in any capacity.
We never have.
Oh.
Listen, you're just.
It's on public record.
The camera guy's laughing, come on.
All right. 10F, soup and sweet reimbursement.
Okay, so I wanted to bring this for discussion. So historically, I have data from last year. I'm trying to gather data from 2022. That was my first year here. I don't know that I was as involved in the reimbursement process for Soup and Sweet. I do have one of the numbers, but not both numbers for our reimbursements. But I had a business owner reach out to me to have some discussion around the division of the pool of money surrounding soup and sweet. So I wanted to bring that for discussion. Historically, what we did last year is we had a larger payout to our soup vendors versus our sweet vendors. And the rationale for that was because we recognized that making 20 gallons of soup was quite a feat, and that sweets, it's hard to put a value, for us to make a judgment, a value judgment on how much effort, money is being put into a sweet when you have one business who's going to the store and buying bagged candy versus another business who's spending a lot of time in a kitchen making homemade treats. So I wanted to bring that for discussion and see what the thoughts were from the board. If we want to make any changes, last year the soup the payout was $475 per business, and the sweets was $125. The data that I have from 2022, the sweets were $100, so we did go up. I do not have the data for the soup for 2022.
Just a couple of comments. I think you need to consider the amount of labor that's involved, because labor is money in a restaurant, and I don't know exactly how many hours it would be, but it's pretty substantial. And, you know, that includes buying the ingredients, storing and prepping them properly, actually making the soup, storing it again, reheating it. And so there is quite a bit of labor involved, as opposed to purchasing a sweet and putting it on display. Now, if they're going through the trouble of making a sweet, I guess that would be another option for them, whereas we, as restaurants, don't have the option to really buy soup and just have it there hot and ready to go. So there's always going to be labor involved. So I think that should just be considered. I'm not saying that, you know, the one is worth $500 and the other one's worth $100. I just think that the whole picture has to be factored in. And maybe going forward, whatever we decide as a sweet reimbursement, maybe we give a dollar amount that, you know, buy X number of sweets, and that's what you'll be reimbursed for. And, you know, that it is what it is. You know, rather but with soup, it's every recipe is different, so the ingredients are going to be a little different.
I spent $637 on making 22 gallons of soup. So that's
With labor?
That's not labor.
Just
that's
ingredients?
Just ingredients. So, I mean, that's, I can't imagine that anybody's making cookies or brownies that's coming even close to over a couple $100. So I think it's apples and oranges that I mean, plus technically those people aren't even supposed to be baking things and having them at their place, right? Because they're not in a licensed kitchen. So technically they should be buying stuff from Costco or whatever. I mean, to be official, right? Go ahead.
What if they just, sorry.
I was in the
Marie,
yes.
What if they do have a kitchen and that is their business?
That was going to be my question.
Because I think that's what's
Well, then-
prompting the question, is that we do have some
Oh, yeah,
anomalies.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that.
That
So
would be-
yeah, that would be like a restaurant.
I would,
I mean,
Yes.
there's labor, there's,
I think that there are the cost discrepancies, but I think if we're talking about, for example, bakeries in our district who are going to be making, they're gonna incur the same costs.
Labor.
right,
Yes.
yeah, I wasn't even thinking,
Okay.
I was thinking of the retail shops that put out, you know,
Okay.
purchase sweets, really, that was mine.
Yeah.
Can
Mindset.
we amend what they were paid this past time? Because I know, if you're saying $637, no labor, and we gave one.
No labor, no lights.
Yeah, I mean, that's, none of that.
Right.
And we gave one group who is a commercial kitchen $125, even though they did the labor and all that in comparison. I don't think that is fair personally.
Well, you know, part of it, I'd say this, in previous years, we didn't do anything.
Right.
We gave zero
I think
reimbursement.
it
Right.
started at.
So before someone starts whining or complaining, remember that.
But we also had a lot of businesses that dropped out because of that, because it was
Right,
too
and that was a
expensive.
great idea. I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm totally,
And
I
intent,
think
I
we
don't
should
think it's to
reimburse.
cover the full cost necessarily,
Right.
it's a
To help,
contribution,
yeah,
yeah.
to help support.
So it's
So I would
just a
say, by
matter-
going back to what Ashley said, I would say going forward as opposed to going back, because that was a
We
known
have not
quantity.
made any payments for this year as of yet, because I wanted to talk, so we can define the strategy for 2024.
Well, part of it might
And
be
going
that there's
forward.
a kitchen involved, is what I'm hearing from Maria and
Commercial
from
kitchen,
Scott.
did the
You know, that would be one of the defining
business.
factors, and I'm gonna repeat this for emphasis. Remember, in the past, we've never done any reimbursement. That's like in the last
Right.
couple of years.
Yeah, but we won't have participation with
No, that's not the issue.
We won't have
Because you're-
businesses if we're asking them to donate it.
No, the point is,
Right.
we've already made that decision, so we'll move on.
Right, right.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, it's like instead of doing soup versus sweet, let's do commercial kitchen versus non-commercial kitchen?
No, if you're serving food that you've made, it has to be made in a commercial kitchen, whether
Right.
you're a restaurant serving soup or a bakery
So
serving baked
even if
goods.
you're a restaurant that wants to serve a sweet, you should only get reimbursed so much, right?
That's
Uh,
what
yes.
75,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and there's a higher cost producing 20 gallons of soup than
Right.
there is
Right.
X
So-
number of sweets,
So would you say then there would be like 3 levels? There would be the soup makers, the commercial kitchen, bakery, sweet
Probably.
makers, and then
Probably.
the non.
I don't know the cost, but I don't, like, I'm gonna rely on the two of you who know the most. I feel like that, from my end, not knowing anything about this, that seems very awkward, because we're essentially calling out currently one business, right? And I know they have labor costs, I know that they have food costs, but I don't know how that compares into making soup versus however many sweets we asked folks to make.
But there could potentially be several more in that category. There are, we have a number of businesses in the district that produce food on their premises, that's their
Mhm.
business. Whether it be a bakery, a sweet shop, a
Coffee shop.
coffee shop.
That's very true.
So that category
Yeah,
could
thank you.
grow.
How much money is available? I mean,
Yeah, what
we
is
wanna
the
do
pool?
this
I mean, what
yearly?
is the typical pool, and we could divide it.
I think last year it was 15, and we're looking around that same amount this year.
We have money to do this.
Yes, it may not, we have more people participating this year, so as we divide it out, the actual number per business might be lower than it was last year, but the full pool is slightly higher than last year.
And keep in mind, folks, in these, the weather's a huge factor in all this. I mean, I've worked at it for years and years and years. There's times we had very few people. If it was cold and rainy, and people aren't gonna come out to go to soup and sweet, all that kind of stuff, that are freezing their hands and their fingers, all that kind of stuff off in the rain. So it was cold, but it was pleasant.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, I don't think any business expects to have all their costs covered.
No.
Because it's a community outreach, it's marketing, so I think we just need to decide how to divvy up the pool.
I think you're right with the 3 then. Soup, 1 level. Commercial made, sweets, 1 level. Store bought,
Yeah.
1 level.
Well,
However that works.
why would we even have store bought?
All the retail
Yeah.
shops,
They wanna
all the
participate.
boutiques
Boutiques.
and insurance agents, and
Okay.
they're having a,
It goes back to marketing too, right?
Well, yeah, but you could say that about everybody.
yeah.
Right, you could, that's my point.
I think.
Oh, Joe, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, did you want to say something?
So, as a person brought my wife and son down here and enjoyed it, it was a very great event. And you buy your ticket, you get 5 punches, and there was 17 things. You had to kind of be strategic where you're going, right? So, I think that helps spread it out better. But I know the one particular brownie shop north of town that we attended, and I went and bought some stuff, and as well as got her handouts. And I think that's probably where you're leaning towards saying, look, she's got rent, overhead, commercial kitchen, ovens, staff making all this stuff. I can't imagine being a lot different from where you were at as far as her all-in cost, because sweets, I don't know what their market is, but I know they're pricey to buy. But
That's what
they're
I'm
well
saying, I don't
worth
know
it.
what I don't know, I can't.
I think the only other,
Versus, I'll just wrap up my point, versus, you go into someone and they got cookies in it, then they bought a Costco
Right.
right? And to your point, I think it's a good idea, say, look, if you're giving out those sweets, here's your 125, buy whatever you want, give out what you want. You guys are in a whole different ballgame. Your soup is $40 a gallon, yours is 45 a gallon, and somebody else is at 25 a gallon. Like I said, you're not trying to compensate evenly, you're just trying to compensate
Right.
enough to make it
Because
good
you
enough
decide,
for everybody.
yeah.
And I think the other piece of that, and there's not too many of us, but restaurants that don't have a bar,
Mhm.
I did 30% less business that night because I'm a carryout pizza place and nobody can even get there. So I'm cool with that. Like, I'm fine with that. I realize that it's for the betterment of all, but like, yeah.
And also
Somebody
you've
buying
got
Costco
other
cookies
customers.
and, yeah, Costco cookies and Hershey's Kisses, like, you know, did they even spend $100? But, I mean,
I appreciate having real data so much, so thank you.
yeah.
And
That's
that
so
was all.
helpful
Yeah.
for me.
I just wanted to make point that cost is similar to yours, I guess.
Example, candy canes.
Candy canes are expensive. I went to
Right,
buy
yeah,
one.
that's true. I
We just
I'm
talked
not
about
the
it.
expert on this, but I
I'm gonna
think,
reimbursement now.
No, I think that's what he's saying. I think, to me, it sounds logical. I think it makes it more complicated for me because I can't.
if you're
I have to
making
go work.
something from
Yeah.
your commercial space for this event, you get
A middle ground somewhere in between there.
I can only see two categories.
Like
If you're making
475.
something, that's
That's
going
what-
to cost.
I'm
No, I
saying
agree.
everybody
Yeah.
No,
like
the cost
that,
of
that
making brownies.
commercial, if you're
Oh,
making
cost of
something in
making
your
brownies
commercial
is
kitchen, in your business here in
20
the district, you get that
The soup
$475 or whatever.
Gotcha.
You're getting the homemade level.
Gotcha.
And then,
But if I'm gonna
or you're getting the 125, whatever it works out to be
I think she's saying the same thing.
Gotcha.
level.
Yeah.
So here's the only thing is, and this is where it becomes kind of more complicated. So, not using names, I know of certain businesses that, what, right, wrong, or indifferent, made or hired someone to make items for their suite. They do not have a commercial kitchen in their business, that is not their business, but they contracted that out to make that happen because they wanted a higher value treat. And then we have other businesses, to your point, that go to the grocery store and get a bag of chocolate kisses or little small candy bars, and they're currently getting the same amount. Yes, it is it's a choice,
Right.
but that's where it comes back to, for me, I think we need to have specific criteria, because it becomes like a judgment call, and I don't wanna be that one making that judgment.
Can I say, if you have a commercial kitchen in the district, and you made something in it, you get it? Because I do
So
think,
To Scott's point, not only did he lose all these extra things, or volunteer gave them, but you're losing business, and where other folks might, you're doing that, say I'm a real estate or whatever, I paid somebody to do cookies with my brand on them, that's marketing. So that's me dipping into my marketing budget after you gave me 125, and I haven't really lost any business.
Mhm.
I still put an investment in, but I could have done the same thing with 1.5. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think we're still saying 3 tiers, so not 2.
I think that everybody who makes soup is gonna spend more than $475, and anybody who buys sweets will probably try to stay under $100. I mean, I think taking away from the 125 and giving it to the people who make soup, I mean, that's what people want. People want soup. They don't want Hershey Kisses and store-bought candy they could get themselves. I just had 2 months ago on Halloween.
Yeah, good point.
Right? And that would promote people making soups too. If we have more soups, I think the event will go better.
But we also want to promote said bake shop to work for 2 days and make all those sweets. Because I know, like, just going back in a previous meeting, she had said, you know, I did all these cannolis and I spent all this money and all this time. And I think the answer was, well, you need to do less, but have more varieties of things for people to buy if you have a smaller sample. But I think she did, and I heard rave reviews, and there was a huge line over there, so she must have had something good. I couldn't even get away.
She always does, I mean, she
Yeah.
always has a long line
It's
for
done.
She's
every
never gonna
event.
half-ass it.
No.
And I think 125 is not enough in comparison to what everybody else.
Yeah. So bumping her up to the commercial kitchen level, I mean, that would make sense.
I would agree with that. I think that, and, you know, like, only 3 people would fall into that, right? You're talking about them, Bagel Bombs, and the ice cream place. Like, that's a commercial kitchen, right? So,
And they did have sweets.
Yeah.
They had both.
I mean, that would just be my thought, just there.
Pardon me?
I got there.
I know, she said they were sold out within an hour,
Wow.
within 1 hour. She said she made like 500 pieces of sweets, and within an hour, the table was clear.
Wow.
Because you were, those were punches, they were just out for the taking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, oh.
Yeah.
So the other question, this might be, I want to ask this one before you make the motion, but for businesses that did both,
That made both?
That's a choice.
No, that's
That's
a choice.
okay,
Because they didn't sign up for both.
what do you mean exactly? What if they did?
Like when we had to send you, are you gonna do a soup or are you gonna do a sweet? There wasn't an option to do both,
Okay,
right?
I don't know.
Just say what the reimbursement is, why are
Okay.
we going around with this?
Because I know that
I
that's
think it's
gonna be a
important.
Well,
question.
we're making this decision, you know, it's like, you can't figure it out.
Do you need a decision from us on the amount for this year, or?
No.
Okay,
No, I just need a decision on the strategy.
okay. So if someone could make a motion for a 3-tier, I think is what we were saying?
Oh, it's two.
No, 3. I'll make the motion, I'll make it myself.
Yes, go for it.
I make a motion to have a 3-tier reimbursement program for soup and sweet. The 3 categories being commercial kitchen soup, commercial kitchen sweet, and store-bought sweet.
Support?
All in favor?
Well, it's financial, and we have to vote
Oh.
individually.
Well, we don't know
So-
We
what
don't
the
have
amounts
dollar
are.
amounts, so we just have a strategy.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
second,
just a
we'll do it. We'll
All in
just-
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Next agenda item is items removed from consent agenda. I don't believe we had any. And then we have board member comments. So, Ron, I'm going to start with you.
Since we're talking about money, I'll give you some good news to leave with before Christmas, is the township, I was talking to Township Treasurer Ferrari on today. The township will be contributing an extra $35,000 to $40,000 that range next year.
Okay,
Thank you.
good.
But we want some soup and some sweets in
How do you fall into the tears?
Delivered.
We need to do a pizza and beer stroll.
There you go.
Oh, that's fun, that.
But that's a chunk of change, so that's some good news heading next year.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to welcome our new members and thank the departing members, Leanne and Bryce. I thought this month was great with activities. Soup and Sweet is always a fantastic event, so I think as we continue to make it better and better each year, it'll just continue to grow and really give our community a big gold star. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year at some point. So,
Ditto on everything. I think I talked a lot this meeting, so happy holidays and we'll see you in January.
Ditto, ditto?
Thanks all for having me. Kim, I want to say I really appreciate in your executive report, the ROI, looking really strategically at what we are doing moving forward. I think that's very important, especially for you to be able to have white space, do some of those really critical things to the job. I think I'm just so impressed that you've jumped in and are thinking through all these things. So thank you. And nice to meet you. Leanne. Welcome.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Looking forward to it. I don't have any ideas right now, I'm sure.
Gabby's probably one is here. Joe, did you have a comment?
Yes, as your only non-voting member, which I'm happy about, I made some notes here. So, and thank you, Scott, for noticing some of the efforts by our DPW staff with the Soup and Sweet Stroll, because Kimberly and I got together a couple weeks earlier and sent out an aerial of, hey, here are the downtown people, here's the parking bays. We would prefer they push the snow all the way up into those parking bays so DPW can push that away with their things. as with drivers who can't drive, every time it snows for the first time of the year, sometimes it takes people to remember they have to shovel the first time that it snows in the year too. So Don and his crew recognized there was a lot of undone sidewalks, not just the parking bases, sidewalks on that Friday morning, and they spent a significant amount of time using the quad and manpower down there to clear those off to ensure that it was much better for everybody that evening, as well as coming through then and putting salt and stuff into the parking bays and trying to get those cleared out as well. They weren't asked to do so, they just recognized that and did it, so thank you for noticing. And again, on other parts you maybe didn't see it up in your neck of the woods, other parts there was a fair amount of sidewalks that had not seen a shovel. So that was good that they did that, I appreciate that. And I was making some notes as you were talking about the shovel and, you know, the trolley versus the shuttle, I should say. And yet, to your point, it's the nostalgia of it or the uniqueness of it that kind of, people want to ride it. It's riding a Nota bus is riding a Nota bus. But if that's what's better than nothing, I would still say. So if you have problems with that trolley, you know, maybe down the road. But I did want to speak to it, piqued my interest about, you got to go back to kind of what I talked to back in August about the state statute, and I touched on it earlier. The statute has very specific reasons why these taxing entities are giving up money to fund the district, and for very specific reasons for the state statute of infrastructure and removing the dilapidated structures and things like that. Those are first and foremost what the statute was in place for. There are certain restrictions you have to contend with about spending that money within the district, predominantly. So when you start talking about running the shuttle out to Greater Oxford, I think that's something that's to have a really close look at on. But again, the county, sometimes the people in the county, downtown part, they're not DDA districts, and sometimes they want to color outside the lines, I think, in my opinion. But going from the one downtown to the other downtown with the shuttle, probably can find a way to make sure that comports with the state statute, but you always got to keep that in mind. How are you guys have been challenged to and rewarded with this funding from all these different entities, predominantly the township and the village, and a couple of county agencies. So you actually got to keep that in mind with those lawful expenditures, making sure that they fit the statute, things like that. So and every now and then I'll see some of the community reports and I'm like, ooh, I need to stop them where they're at now because they get these ideas, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like we have zoning ordinances, we have right-of-way setbacks and things like that. So every now and then I'll maybe have to just chat with some of them and like in the drawing, and also I can share it with Kimberly. I showed her where the full application is that went to the Oakland County for these ARPA funds. Obviously, you guys should all see that and be aware of it. There was some initial drawings in there as you go over East Burdick there by the archway that Scott had drawn the curvature of the new curbing coming inward to make it narrower there so it would be less to go across. My first reaction was, no way, that can't happen. We're not going to take that wide lane and narrow it with curbing coming in. We have to plow it, you have people traveling it. No, we'll leave the curbs where they're at. You deal with the width of the road. So every now and then, you know, I gotta be Grinch, but that's my job. So other than that, I think it was a great event. I think everyone loved it. You know, good soup. I didn't get to test them all, but it was great. So thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Pete? Are you still awake?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry I'm not able to make it here. I will not get a J or anything either. I had my surgery Wednesday, so I'll be in quarantine for a couple of months. Trying to support you as much as I can. Kimberly and I talked back and forth quite a day sometimes and everything, keeping things going. Welcome to the 2 new members. Ashley, welcome back. Look forward to it. Wish everybody a happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Pete. Okay.
Make a motion that we end the meeting?
Yes.
Second.
The December.